Alrighty, what's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? Seamus and Marcos here with another episode. We're going to drop a little bit more of a, I would honestly say, casual conversation. Got to hang out with our awesome guest today, Coach Will Solomon, who is the owner of the Psyko Fit Club out in the Sacramento area in California. But we got connected with a love passion of ours, just kind of on an airplane. Noticed Will was looking at some Hyrox stuff or had Hyrox gear on. I was like, hey, I just went to the Hyrox. I just did the relay. This is back in February in Las Vegas, so it's a bit far out. But we wanted to connect, and we had such a good conversation. And he, has a background in fitness and been doing this for like 15 plus years. But also at the same time, runs a gym and was giving me all the ins and outs of running a gym. And I helped run gyms before, and he's like into Hyrox, has a family. So it's like I kind of look up to Wilk in a way because it's like a high performer. He's this guy that's like still doing the passion, still competing in things. But yeah, Marcos and I are gonna have a fun conversation today. Probably pick the brain a little bit. But yeah, Will, introduce yourself to the audience. Thanks so much for being on the pod.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you both. My name is Coach Solomon, Will Solomon, owner, Psyko Fit Club here in Sac. Fitness enthusiast, still a big kid at heart when it comes to getting after it, whether it's Hyrox, DecaFit, trying to get better at improving my marathon time, whatever the goal is of the year, just getting after it.
Yeah, that's super amazing. I want to start this by saying our conversation was real because you said the thing to me that was like, I'm a big dude and doing these things, it's a hard gambit on the body. Can you just tell the people how tall you are, how much you're weighing when you're running mileage and hitting these high rocks things, man?
I'm 6'2", currently sitting at 235 pounds, and
Yeesh.
and I'm 40. I'm 46, so I'm not a young buck anymore.
I love what you said. You're like, I'm not, I think you said something along the lines of like, it's just physics. I'm just out here doing my best. There's no amount of training you're going to do against a 230 pound 6'2" body. It's just physics at this point that like, you can't compete with that.
It's one of those deals where, physics is undefeated, so is gravity. So if you're a bigger human being, even though, I think I'm sitting at probably about 18% body fat. It's not as if it's, morbidly obese, but even still, the heavier you are, the more you have, more energy you need to get moving and stay moving. But I don't complain. I love it. Like I was telling a friend of mine, we did the San Diego rock and roll marathon just recently. I think that was like 2 weeks ago. And we're both big guys. And I'm like, how does it feel to be able to deadlift more than 99.9% of the people here and still run a marathon? Right. So you just take it in stride.
Yeah.
I love that. Being what's the word? Like average lifter and terrible runner is like the idea behind most Hyrox athletes.
I think that's it, man. That's where they got us, right?
Oh yeah. I saw a video today. This dude was like, I'm gonna deadlift 405 going into every mile run or every 400 of a mile run, and he ran it like sub 6. And I was like, goodness gracious, just like the abilities of some people. Yeah, again, I was like, that's respectable. That's a respectable, clip on both ends. I mean, the idea behind the Hyrox athlete are just like being multifaceted. I actually like the movement quite a bit. I don't necessarily love the idea of the race always being the same thing because it kind of bores me, but it is what it is. I'll take it. If I do one a year, like a marathon, it's like all the training leading up to it, I think is worthwhile. But that's why like my first love will always be CrossFit, because you got to expect the unexpected and do stuff that you probably wouldn't pair together. And for the longest time, I'd always do workouts that I'd pair together that was like, a push-pull split, like essentially like, okay, I'm doing a pulling movement, I got to do a push movement with it. That way I have like this ability. And then CrossFit blew my mind, like, hey, we'll do pull. You're going to do deadlifts and pull-ups and suck it up, bro.
CrossFit is essentially where I got my love and passion for mixed modal fitness. That's where it started, right? And I got into the wormhole, right? I'm like, well, mixed modal fitness technically started with the military. The military was the first one to say, hey, we need you to run, we need you to be strong, and you need some skill. You need to know how to fight, you need to shoot a gun and all that. But from just pure fitness standpoint, CrossFit, I believe, and the history shows, they were really the first to say, okay, we're going to take gymnastics, powerlifting, we're going to take the best of the best, put it all together and throw it at you. Fell in love with that. And then when Hyrox came along and it was like, hey, we're just going to take out the gymnastic stuff, right? You don't need any skill. You can just be Joe Blow, Jane Go off the street, and you can get after it. And I started training for my first Hyrox in 2019. before it was popular.
Early adopter.
1 or 2 years in, yeah.
And you know what? No, it was cool at that time. I'm looking at all of the top times and the finishers. I'm like, this is before the runners got in there. And I'm like, hour and 20 minutes. That's a top 10. I could podium. I might be able to get in the top 10. And then, COVID happened. Then everyone started running. Then the runners got in there, and I'm like, fuck, here we go.
Yeah, run clubs went crazy. Runners got in, and I think the best thing that runners say is like, oh, if you're a runner, can you just push a sled a little bit? You'll win this thing. That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things to do at a Hyrox is, and I'm still a fan, even though I've done, I've done these things, and I get newbies into the gym. We train them up. One of the things I love to do, I call it meeting reality. I love to go and just watch the first timers meet reality. And it's the person who is a great runner who did a little bit of strength training. They did a couple of WODs. And then I like to watch them after the sled push or sled pull. And you can see reality coming to them. They're meeting reality where it's like, holy crap, I think I'm going to be sick. And it's like, yeah.
That third station's no joke. Like, I left it too, feeling kind of the same way. I was like, shit, we're not even halfway done yet. My first one.
For the new person listening, I'm going to give you the perfect story. I was doing doubles in Anaheim last year, and I had someone with me, a member. It was his first one, and we trained. For a newbie, I love a 16 to 20 week training block, especially if you don't have any strength training, because it just takes time to get strong. You're not going to get strong fast, and we need that muscular endurance. So we did our full training block. We go into the doubles, and then this guy, my buddy Rob, say his name. Rob's all hyped up in the tunnel. The announcers are doing their thing. They're like hyping us up, and then we take off. And in our training block, we always, pacing is everything. Know your pace is my whole thing, right? So we shoot out, and we're both big guys. And I quickly look down at my watch, and I'm like, this is not our pace. And I grab his arm while we're running. I'm like, slow down, right? And he's all right, dude, let's go. That first lap we take off, I'm like, slow down. Long story short, after about, I think it was about it was after the sled pull, the folks who had started off too fast, there was these two guys, man buns. These guys were fit. They just started off too hot. They're throwing up. They're literally throwing up in a bucket. And I'm like, that's why we didn't start off too fast. Now the race starts. Let's go. So I love it.
So true. We
start too fast, newbies.
No. And Seamus, wasn't it? It was Roxop that talked about how actually people that tend to do in the top like 5% of all events actually have the slowest start off of the ski erg, surprisingly.
Yes. It's like a data thing. Like he's noticed that people that like come out the bat and try to rip through that, you just realize like he said it the best. It's like this is like 2% of the race is like this like sled or like skier is like 2% of the race. Most of it's running. So are you trying to kill it at this thing or just trying to get through it so that you can really make it up elsewhere? And I did the same thing. I went too hard. On the sled push the first time. I did a full lap instead of doing the halfway rest and then push, or resting as I push. And man, me and my fiance, because we did the mixed, dude, to this day, she doesn't live it up to me because I like could not run afterwards. And she was running backwards. It was like, why are you so slow? I'm running backwards. I'm like, it took me until like the burpee broad jumps to be like, I'm back. It took like 3 stations. I'm like, I'm back.
My gut would tell me that most newbies are folks who are just not really tapped into the data, into the training. They're starting that ski erg with the damper too high, and they're going too hard, and they're getting a lactate response too early. And they don't have enough training at threshold to be able to use that. And so they're just building it up, and they're not disposing of it.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I mean, energy system's a weird one because there is, these instances. I can use the example of a client on Tuesday. He's going into like a little bit of a mini cut. He does a competition in a few months. So I was like, let's just see if like this can help your gymnastics CrossFit comp. And so the next day he's doing like a lactate threshold workout. Again, CrossFit Mayhem, of course, programs 12 calories on the assault bike, 10 burpees, 12 calories. You do 1 round every 4 minutes, I think. He's like, dude, I don't know if it was the cut in carbs or if it like what's going on. I was like, dude, you're still at 3,400 calories. It's not your intake. It is legitimately, that workout is a motherfucker, right? That lactate thing is like, it's probably untrained. You probably need to do more of it, in all honesty, if you really want to get better at the competition side of things. But it was a great thing to kind of come the next day and be like, he's like, you're right. I'll try to include a little bit more of that to kind of build that thing and get that response. Because I mean, I was like, how did you feel by like round 4 or 5? He's like, dead. And I was like, then you hit it with the right intensity. Like you should be like kind of just like snail to the finish if you're actually pushing yourself for training purposes, right? Where you're training for that stimulus.
Yeah.
And he basically had like a 50%, well, 100%, no, 50% increase. So he went from like 2 minutes to about 3 in terms of total time to do each section by the end of it. And I was like, you hit the first ones hard. You couldn't keep it up.
Yeah.
Just nature of the beast.
I'm curious how wrestlers who are actually competitive or who are like in season shape, I'm curious to see how they would respond to like doing a Hyrox, like untrained, just going straight into it.
Well, I can give you my insight because I wrestled in college, but I was just not Hyrox, but like Spartans. So maybe this is like a quick, like trying to contrast. My first Spartan was a beast. And then I did a sprint the next day and I was just in wrestling shape. And honestly, like it was easy. Like the beast was easy. And then I did the sprint the next day because I, how do I say this? I had to take like my gym through the culture, all the people that sign up.
Define easy though, Seamus. Was it easy in the sense of like your perception of it was
my
like
perception? It was just like my perception of it. It's just because I think like when I was like 20 years old, like my, junior year of college, going deep into wrestling season and stuff like that. Like it was just perceptibly easy. Like hard work was just easy. Endurance stuff, like lifting all that stuff, doing all the burpees. I mean, still kind of like, throwing the spear, whatever. Like it was still like tough, but like mentally it was easy. It was so approachable for me. And I would say when I was training too, so I used to train there's this guy in the mixed martial arts world. His name is Phil DeRue. He was like top 5 mixed strength and conditioning coach. I used to do his program. So I did a lot of that alactic work, lactic repeats. Like the Airdyne was my best friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versa Climber was my best friend.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I would puke in dynos, but I remember I wasn't really a good endurance person because I used to run like my first half marathon. I thought I broke my leg because not my first half marathon, my first marathon. I thought I told my hero coach. So like endurance wise, I wasn't great, but like when you push me to red bar, I can do red bar. Like I don't know, like mentally, like a red bar is fine for me, and I could come back because wrestling's like that. You go red, you relax. You go red, you relax. And it was just kind of easy. So I think wrestlers probably would do really good in the Hyrox if they were just not training for Hyrox, but just doing wrestling training. And they did wrestling training and they had to jump into a Hyrox. I think they're in Hyrox shape. I don't think they'd be elite. I think they'd just be like, yeah, you could do it because it's like a 90-minute workout or something like that.
That's essentially was my hunch, that they have enough essentially threshold training, right?
Yeah.
To where they could temper. They're not afraid of the burn. They know they can't live there. You can't fight a whole match there, but you can get up there and then get to some running, get your heart rate down during the running and probably recover. That was probably my assumption there.
Yeah.
I just don't think there's anyone, I can't think of another sport that probably would be as ready.
Yeah, it's that sprint repeatability. I think like wrestlers are probably the best at that. MMA fighters probably the best. Like for example, the best analogy that I have around fitness is there's this coach, George St. Pierre's coach, Marcus. If we could find out who that coach was, it's like his brother just fought in the UFC, but his best analogy around like cardio and like technique and strength is like grappling and wrestling. Both the same language, just two different dialects of the same language. They're both grappling. 6-minute match with the wrestler. If the rules were wrestling, the jiu-jitsu guy would gas because that's not his rule set. But if you do a 6-minute match and it's jiu-jitsu, the wrestler would kind of gas because it's a different rule set. It's like these different mindsets of like, it depends on the context, depends on the rules, and it just depends on the goal and the outcome. But I really think that, yeah, the athletes with the sprint repeatability are probably going to be they could clear a lot. They could clear it really fast.
Who is Hyrox pulling mostly? Do you guys know? I mean, like their first time user, is that usually a
it's like the couch to 5K person. It's like the same person.
It's not someone coming out of the gym already?
I think that there's already been, like, I think now that the draw is that more people would sign up for it because it's kind of a quick in and out. You can do it, like you just said, 16 to 20 weeks to kind of prepare. They kind of like, they're usually about like what, Seamus, 6 months out for registration, right?
Yeah, they usually about yeah.
So I think they're kind of like, it gives people enough time to like go out there and do it and accomplish like that feat. And it's like, all right, you're doing 5, you might as well do 8K. And it's like, oh, well, you kind of get a break in between each bit of the run because you got to go do this other thing. And hey, you could do it as a team of 4 and you only do a quarter of it.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's the most approachable to that, like just like person that's like wanting to get back into the groove of something. Because I feel like everybody else that's like from the scene of like being in mixed modal fitness has like already been tapped into at this point, you know? And those people are like, hey, like the people around the gym community will be like, hey, we're signing up for the Hyrox. Who all here wants to do it? And then everybody's just like, yeah, sure, just sign me up, right? What do you need me as a partner or whatever? Like those people are like, they're cool, but they would, you know, I think that the you know, the bigger draw right now is that they're going to capture a lot more people that, hey, like we just released day one and, you know, you missed out. Do you want to get on the wait list? The buzz goes around, boom. Next thing you know, they have 10,000 people signing up for the one in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And also too, like the cool thing about it too is like the community aspect. I think they really, I don't know, Marco said this the best, like they're capturing the community stuff the way CrossFit used to do, like maybe like peak 2015 to 2017, like peak CrossFit community, where they're like, oh yeah, like you can do single, but you can do double, you know, you can mix double, and then also we got the relay, like you can do four, and then people are doing like all three. They're doing a single, a double, and a relay, and it's like the whole weekend's just like a weekend in Vegas. You know, I don't know, it's crazy.
I also, because I'm an early adopter, I have a lot of opinions. I don't know if Hyrox takes off the way it did if COVID didn't happen. Because running took off in a way I just, you know, that just helps to lift Hyrox, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think the running where do you think the running came from? Do you think it was just like social media and all these run clubs? What do you think it was?
What, from COVID?
Yeah.
Oh man, shit! Gyms were closed down. It was the one thing you could do. It's easy access. You get out and you can socialize and do it. And I think it was just 100% authentic, organic human beings being really good primates. Like
Yeah.
there's a monkey over there running. I'm gonna go run with that monkey. All the monkeys look like they're having fun, and they're eating, drinking. Let's go, and that's what human beings do. I really just think it's that simple.
Yeah.
Supply and demand at its finest, right? There's like, hey,
Yeah.
there's a demand for fitness. The supply is one thing, and it's the only thing that gets you outdoors. And bada bing, bada boom, like you said, it's all.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, would it have grown as much if it wasn't for that? It probably wouldn't have exploded onto the scene like it kind of has.
yeah.
I think that like you said, more of the run enthusiast type of CrossFitter would probably have been the person as it came over into the US market that
Yeah.
it captured, because it obviously did kind of for you. One of my other clients, like she was an early adopter of it as well. And she mentioned some like things now. I'm like, they got rid of this division where you could actually do it with a weight vest. And I was like, sign me up for that. I'd rather like see if like the equalizer, like you got to carry load with you. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
You know, because
This
I'm
just
not a great
sounds
runner. You know, I'm always looking for a way to kind of like be like, I'm going to do RX plus, you know, so that way it's not really the same comparison piece, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's fascinating. I think to me, I would love them to reinvent it over time, right? I love that they have their mainstay. Like again, like it's predictable. It could be an Olympic event because it has standardizations. I understand that, but I would love for there to be like, you know, maybe there's one that's like a rower version. You know what I mean? Like the row is taking place of the run, but then I understand the logistics of having 1,000 rowers at an event, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
running is the most convenient thing to do for the masses, and then like sectioning them off in those heats. So who knows? Who knows?
Let me play devil's advocate. I think it'll never change, and that's why I asked like who is there essentially top of funnel,
Mhm.
who's signing up in mass, right? You do your first one, you're more than likely going to do 2 or 3 more, and maybe your lifetime cycle in doing a Hyrox is 3 to 5 years, right? Maybe because you
Mhm.
do one, you pull a friend in, you do another one, and maybe you try to go elite or you try to go pro, you do a couple more, then you're probably on to the next thing. I think it'll never change. And my best argument will be when you do an Ironman, it's the same fucking run. It's the same fucking. The only thing that changes is the venue. And I
Yeah.
think, in my opinion, from the marketing, from the feel, from everything, the people at the top, I think they have this right. It's like, hey, this is the recipe. We're going to change the venue. We're going to change the scenery. It's the same video game, but you get to pick where you're going to, you know, do the car race. It's Africa, it's, you know, Santa Monica, whatever you want to. I believe that's probably going to be the recipe the next, I don't know, 20
Be honest with you, I think yes, because like for me, me and my fiance like are like into that stuff, you know, and like I feel like for us it's like the destination, you know, like hey, if they do the one in Spain again or Italy, it's like okay, cool, like I'll do that one, and it's like the reason to get fit over like a 20-week period, and then it's like, okay, it's a week-long vacation. Like there's like a reason to be in like Italy for another reason on top of the vacation itself, you know?
And then if you, and I'm a gym owner, so I like getting into fitness demographics. At least in the US, if you look at where the population is going, people are having less kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, younger folks, the kind of mid-20s, they don't have kids. They might have a pet, they might have a poodle or a cat, and they're traveling more. They're out. They're looking to work remote. And so the idea of going and doing something fit vacation, that's just becoming more popular. I think that's cool. I love it. Keep Hyrox the same. So that way folks like us can come up with something different. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying that Hyrox, the organization, needs to come out with the next thing, but for me, I like the idea of getting my gears turning about what would the next thing be that could be a lot of fun that has, you know, mixed modal use, right?
Yeah.
I really want to do an ergathlon, right? So like,
What break it down? What kind of
Yeah.
ergathlon?
That's interesting.
well, I mean, I would love for there to be like, again, that same kind of flow of like, hey, you're going to go from skier to biker to rower, you know, and like kind of do it that way with like as a fundraiser. Let's do it as a fundraiser to begin because a lot of people would show up, right? It's like a charity event, right? The distances are more of like a sprint. So it's like, hey, you and a couple, you as a pair or a team of 3 can hit these pieces of equipment, bada bing, bada boom, you're in, you're out in like under an hour. Kind of the same concept, same premise, right? But then it's like, oh, well, now your skill set's a little different than just like, I gotta be good at running. I was like, we gotta crank on this thing. This is actually gonna be more of like a lactate event because it's like you and it's like 2-to-1 work to rest, right? Or 1-to-2, whatever, however you want to view that, right? How does that event change? And then how do people try to attack it and approach it from a training capacity thing, right? Because this one biases so much running, right? And I understand the other stuff biases like machines you don't have access to maybe as easily, but it also helps you, the gym owner, right? To like have like a kind of a unique class that taps into that type of like fitness component. And also going back to what we talked about earlier, how do we bring fitness communities together? Right? We got to have like more things that want to bring people there. Whereas running kind of can still silo you, right? One of my training partners right now, training for a marathon, he skipped legs today. Damn it. I was like, I miss him on leg day. He had to get his mileage in. I was like, bro, these sets of 20 are going to work themselves, right? Those chicken legs.
Doing it by myself. Wednesday's your leg day too, Marcos? Mine is Wednesday too.
Wednesday, Sunday, every week, you know?
Okay.
I mean, after I moved from CrossFit from every day being leg day into to where I'm at right now. And again, like, you know, Coach Solomon, you mentioned kind of being in the same boat as me. Like I got 2 younger kids. And so, you know, would I love to have more of like the fitness community vibe? Absolutely. Like I miss CrossFit. I miss, you know, just different functional fitness things. Hell, I would really love to get into like a, you know, reformer Pilates classes and kind of be able to kind of work on some of my core weaknesses. But as it stands right now, that'd probably be a couple years out where my kids are probably when my son's driving, you know, I still got like 9 years.
I think I would love to find that innovation, man. There's a piece of equipment that doesn't exist yet where it is a reformer resistance, lower body, full body resistance, and you can get into some, you know, funky positions and work some deep core like Pilates does. But you can also get in a little bit of aerobic conditioning and maybe just some moderate level resistance training. I don't know what that piece of equipment looks like, but you're already speaking to that demand. I see it as someone who has a love for training programs and trying to, I mean, you only got so much time in the gym, right? So it's like, man, I wish I could get into this and get into that. I see that piece of equipment coming. And I don't know if tonal was like the first attempt at it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the first iteration. Tonal, mirror.
Yeah.
Like those guys are the first iteration.
Tempo fit.
Tempo.
Yeah.
I think those are like the first, and then somebody else is gonna find like a more economic, you know, more mass developed way, but also at the same time kind of like a very, it fits everything you need. It's like a Swiss Army knife, you know?
If you are the tinkerer, if you are the innovator and you're listening to this, find me. I will find you. Find me. Just email me, text me. I'll come use it. I'll give you my input.
There is actually a device called it's kind of like it's similar to tonal, but it's actually like a Japanese or a Chinese company. It's like half the cost. I think it's like extension. I forget, one of our patients in our practice had mentioned it, and I looked it up and I was like, all right, someone's iterating on the tonal concept and being able to actually have other foundational movements done a little bit better with this kind of magnetic resistance kind of thing, So will it get better over time? I think so. I would love for them to also figure out like a flywheel setting on that too, where it also has that kind of weird kind of resistance accommodation on that back pull. Seamus, by the way, I had my first experience with an apparatus the other day, and I did like 10 reps of like bicep curls with a flywheel thing. And then I was like, dude, why do my fucking elbows hurt? Like later in the day. Yeah, because the eccentric, it has that eccentric overload.
Dude,
you're like,
when I was doing that in strength and conditioning for college, like that was, we had one and it was like a eccentric box, right? And then we had the eccentric on the wall. Sports performance, like these are the things that like I go like, oh, this is gonna make programming so much better, right? I do the pull and it's gonna be, going back. I do the squat, it's gonna pull me down into the squat. But it is so fucking hard. Like, sorry for the language. Like, it is so hard to get those 10 reps, right, Marcos? That you kind of go like, I don't know if I could do every single movement like this though.
Yeah, well, I mean, if tonal, because I think tonal has that kind of accommodating resistance where it's like you pull 10, but it gives you 20 back after you're there. Yeah. So it's like those ideas of like from a hypertrophy setting or just giving you some novel stimulus. Like I would love to get my hands on something like that, but at the same time too, like
check out AMP.
Yeah.
Coach you and I did a video on it. The AMP, that one is good because it's like a one single unit on the wall.
Yeah, but I feel like the resistance curve would look kind of weird though, because you were trying to do like flies with it, and I was like, but the portion that would actually be like that was like
it's not two cables, it's one. It wasn't that great for the flies, but for everything single sided, it's amazing.
Okay, how much is the AMP unit?
Not as much as the tonal. I'll tell you that.
It's not $3,000. It's like $1,000. Well, I mean, Coach you, speaking back to that episode, it's like, hey, Rachel, if you're listening, can you put like a video link there? Because he actually had a lot of like great suggestions for like kids classes and just like different uses and use cases for like people having fun and playing. Because I know he mentioned the like speed drills with the hand-eye coordination. And what were those things called? Oh man, I looked them up. I forget.
They're like the flashing kind of things, like reaction drills and stuff like that. That's the stuff that like people forget about. Will, do you do anything? Do you do anything like that in your gym?
We do. Not with the flashing lights. That might be something I can look at. I've seen though that apparatus. We'll do things with the lacrosse ball and essentially getting people in maybe like in a quadruped position or just a compromised position and have them react to catching with maybe like an offset load or But we do. We get after it.
That's cool. Tell me about your gym. I know you mentioned like lockdowns and stuff like that. Like, how did that go for you? That's always the question that I've had for gym owners. I mean, for us, when I was training at a gym, first off, we used the gym launch model and we were peaking. 2020 hits. And then that first month, we were like, what the F? Gym launch helped us turn around. We scaled. We went from, physical to online, and then we were peaking again. And then, but then I went clinical. But like, how did things go for you? Like in that, essentially like, when the state was saying, don't, you got 2 weeks, lower the curve for 2 weeks. What the hell was that?
It's a different journey than yours, but also very identical, man. If you're a fitness enthusiast, trainer, thinking about becoming a gym owner, or if you're a new gym owner, man, you need to tune into this. If you're an existing gym owner, then you already know this. It's probably just refreshing, but it is a constant pivot, sprint, fight to stay on top, not get comfortable because you know the next pivot and sprint is coming. Right, so the bulk of my training in 2018, 17, at this time, I don't have a gym. I'm just an individual trainer. I'm leasing space in a gym and then also working for another gym, kind of just moonlighting. But the bulk of my revenue is coming online, right? I'm using Trainerize. My one-on-ones are via Zoom. And that is the essentially bread and butter. And then working in the gyms and even the space that I was leasing, I was just essentially treating that as a funnel to try to get people online. Because at that time I could do online on scale for how my life was set up. This was before 2020. I did a little bit of corporate stuff where I would go to the campus and do some boot camp trainings for the global conglomerate. They have this huge campus. I go in there, I do classes. There's like 50 people and it's all fun. But then I'm trying to at least get 3 or 4 of them to do some one-on-ones via Zoom. Right.
Yeah.
That was a strategy. I'm paying the bills. I'm happy. And then next, hot shoe, face mask, COVID, campus is shut down. They're selling their equipment and I'm starting to pivot. And next thing I know, I'm looking without even target marketing. My online just started to it's just through the roof, right? The customer started to get adapted to it. So I just happen to be, I like to use the analogy. Because I had different revenue streams, I was the surfer ready for the next wave. And when COVID came, that wave just lifted me. Wasn't doing anything special. I just happened to be in the right break or right point, and I got lifted by that wave. And when that happened, I just didn't feel comfortable. I'm like, okay, this is cool. How long is COVID going to last? I see other gyms closing. I see people walking away from their anytime fitness, like literally just walking away from the business. The business is folded up. I'm calling the landlord. I'm like, hey, do you think you would lease space to me? I'm thinking about opening up my gym. Landlords are like, F a gym. I don't want a gym. I have 4 or 5 gyms that have closed in my portfolio. I have a gym this side of town, a gym that side of town. Gyms owe me $150,000. Don't ever see gym around me, right? No lie, man. No lie. For a year, even though my online is doing well, I knew that at some point that market was going to get saturated. I never felt comfortable, even though I'm doing it and I was doing it. I knew that I need to go brick and mortar.
Okay.
I knew at that point that I need to go brick and mortar because I saw all the competition.
That's crazy that you had like the wisdom to be like, oh, this is a great wave, but I'm still like, I'm on my toes.
Maybe it's just me. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable now. Like it's just because I think as a business owner, the minute you feel comfortable, there's someone else. There's the entry that the access to this market is just simple. Anybody can get into fitness and start training. And if they have a hot product, if they market it right, if their social media is right, next thing you know, like there's just competition, right? And so because I know that, I never feel comfortable. I feel the need to just try to be out in front for myself, for my business. And so with that being said, I got my lease after a year of being told no. And it was a straight Alex Hormozzi like moment. It was like, you know what? I've been told no so much. The odds of me being told yes are pretty good now because I've already been through 500 no's.
That's crazy. It took a year. And then I know you mentioned something too, like when you were getting your gym equipment, you were like, I was buying it for pennies. Like, was it like that for you?
Well, because the market was saturated at that point. Like, I mean, if you were on Facebook Marketplace, you were being taken advantage of, right? Because Facebook Marketplace at the time, every Jane, John with a spare dumbbell was just trying to get cocaine money for their dumbbell.
Dang, bro.
It was like everything was like $1 a pound. You're like, this piece of equipment is so desperate for equipment.
Yeah, man. But unfortunately, you had a lot of small gyms that were being liquidated, right? Right. So people who are 2 or 3 months behind on their rent, and unfortunately, in the gym business, for most gyms, they might have a 2 or 3 month ramp, right? Like
if they're lucky.
If they're lucky, right? So they got behind in COVID. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, I need to get rid of this. If you could take all of it. And I was like, all right, let's go. And it got a little dicey there. And then next thing you know, when things started to open back up, I was already open.
Dang, dude, you had a structure for the online, and then you built a structure for the brick and mortar. And then you just, as soon as like the things landed, you're like, all right. And you were like probably the only one in that area, for the next few blocks around. So
it is a business strategy for me to try to be first. I'm the first in Sacramento to become a Hyrox affiliate. I don't want to rely on being the smartest. I don't want to necessarily rely on being the best. I want to be the best. I have a deep desire to be really good for myself and for my customer. But from a pure business strategy, if you can just be first, you can compete really well. And I think at the end of the day, that sometimes being first just means taking some risk, having a pair, making a bet. And then if you're in the wrong place, just leave. Get somewhere else and be first.
Ricky Bobby. If you ain't first, you're last.
I love it.
Man, super true, bro. Super true.
I love it. And it works, man. It works. If someone's listening to this who is like, okay, that makes sense. I had a prospect come in yesterday. She fits the archetype for my gym, right? She's done CrossFit. She's done Orange Theory. She saw Hyrox. I'm a Hyrox affiliate. She did a deep dive. She is well educated, so she's doing her homework. She sees that I'm a Hyrox affiliate. She taps my page. I respond quickly. She comes in. We have a great conversation. Then I sign her to a 3-month training program for personal training, the highest revenue for my business. It works. If you are first to a market and you just show up and you're consistent and you do good work, I believe you can compete. I know you can compete.
So you offer a multitude of services, and your highest ticket thing is obviously the one-to-one, right? How many people truly utilize like your nutrition coaching or some of the other services that are part of your gym?
That's a great question, brother. Not as many people who should. That revenue stream, my revenue model is pretty consistent with a boutique gym such as mine. I do small group training. Max size in our class is 12 people, and then I do personal training. It's 1-on-3, so one trainer, no more than three individuals, three clients, and each individual has truly their own custom program. So you might have someone in the program doing the personal training. They might be trying to grow their glutes. The other person's getting ready for Hyrox, and the other person is on a like really strict nutrition program, and they're maybe they're on semi-glutide or GLP-1 something, and they're really watching their weight, and they need to strength train and do their nutrition. All three of those are different, but they'll be in the same room with their own program. But at the end of the day, the personal training is just the most effective and most efficient way to get to your goal. And it's good for the gym, it's good for the client, and that's why it works. The nutrition add-on, I wish more people were on that. And it's an opportunity for me as a business owner to really do better showing the value of nutrition coaching. But it goes personal training and then group training, and then the nutrition services end up that might look like 12 to 15% on the P&L. You want donuts?
This guy over here looking at the P&Ls I mean, just
Well, that's the thing about being a fitness. I think like the evolution of a fitness person, personal trainer with their own business. Is a business owner, then it becomes like a gym owner. The evolution of a fitness person becomes like a business person as well.
I would tell anyone who is an influencer or a trainer, right? Because not all influencers are trainers, but all trainers are influencers. If you're thinking about if you're thinking about getting a gym, just know you're running a business. And at the end of the day, when it comes to a business, only scoreboard is the P&L. And I love winning. I know that in life, I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose opportunities. I'm going to lose loved ones. People die. People move on. You are going to lose if you're living. You're not guaranteed to win. So I try to win every day. I want to win.
love that mindset. And I think too, like, so here's an idea for you. You can steal it from me. Since the newest boom and all the craze with like GLP-1 therapies and treatment, right? There is an uneducated market on how to most effectively utilize this technology, because it's really what it is. It's medical technology, right? If there's some little inklings or partnerships with these pop-up clinics, right? Because you have these nurse practitioners or physician's assistants that have this idea of like, I'm going to go into this hot market because I can give a little bit more personalized attention, quote unquote, right? And build a kind of recurring model of like kind of a niche healthcare, right? But then guess what? They're not the subject matter expert as it pertains to like eating and training, but you mentioned that person. And I was like, hey, like if you find a few more people to help facilitate that, like it all funnels back up to like really the highest ticket for you. But I wouldn't be surprised because so many people are looking on TikTok and all these social media things as to like you just said, the influencer of that, right? But I bet you, because you already have that savvy mind, that you could target those people and give them a fantastic experience. And like, again, in that kind of semi-private kind of like setting.
I love it. My brain is kind of already gravitating to that area. One of my best performing blogs is GLP-1 mistakes. And I have a couple posts that I put out there. And every now and then I'll post on a topic just to see how well it responds. And I mean, just night and day difference, like eyes on it, the viewership on it. So it's definitely, I know it's there, right? I know it's there. I think if you're a gym owner, fitness person, and you're helping the public, if you're not trying to go there, I think you're not trying to win. You're going to have to, because the customer's going there. You got to go where the customer's going, right? The customer is seeing their girlfriend have results. They're seeing their girlfriend maybe have some results, but also maybe they're losing weight, but their body fat percentage hasn't changed. Like, how does that work? Like, I could tell they've lost 20 pounds, but they don't look healthy. I'm curious about Ozempic, but I don't want to look like them. That's where I have to step in and be like, well, yeah, we can lose weight, but we got to keep your muscle. You can't diet down into the body you want to be in. That's where we come in. How to make that work? That'll more than likely that will be probably venture number 2, number 3. That won't be a spinoff of what I'm doing. I don't believe I can do everything in just the PsychoFit in the first venture. But the data shows people are flocking to weight loss medication in droves, and it's going to get cheaper. The market's going to get competitive, and you got to find a way to help people get through that journey.
As soon as Retta becomes commercially available and it drives down the cost of sema, and then it drives down the cost of tirzepatide, and then you go from 1 in 8 to 1 in 4, and then it's like 50% of the population are using these things to truly tamp down like these signals and cues. It doesn't give you the silver bullet in a sense, right? Like it does calm down the noise of food. It does make it so that eating food becomes more difficult, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't include the proper nutrition items as part of that. It just means that like the fact that you're not thinking about the craving of like a sugar or something else, right? Like might give you a little bit more, food freedom, right? Cut out the food noise, you create more food freedom. And I actually had a great conversation with a patient today. She's like 6 months into her journey. She's actually a physician. She's done bikini shows. Like she knows how to diet. Now I'm like, I know I'm in striking distance to get ready for my trip to Italy in 2 months. And I know I can get a little more walking. I can get a little bit more on the resistance training, elevated a bit more. I can be a little more consistent with that. She wasn't inconsistent, but to see her body just like change very slowly, 6-month journey, right? And it's way harder for females typically to see that kind of like fat loss, right? Night and day difference. 20 pounds, I would probably say she probably lost a little bit of lean potentially, even with like keeping up her protein, because it's like she's not using other like hormone therapy, and she's in their kind of mid 40s, so I'm sure there's some perimenopause stuff potentially going on there. But I'm interested to see the next half of this journey. And then also because now like Seamus and I have had the opportunity to coach people, there's a huge psychological shifts that are occurring now with people that have used this medication, right? So we're trying to be like, okay, cool. And the conversation isn't so much like if you're getting off it, it's like when you need to reverse diet and when you need to actually go into building muscle a bit more, like prioritizing that. How are you going to handle the psychological burden of lowering your medication and the control that it provides? Because it's a dial. It's literally like, hey, if I amplify my, to let's just call it 7.5 milligrams, right? Like I know that like I can get to this weight and I can sustain it. You dial it back like 25%, 50%. Then what happens? You're like, oh, the scale's going the other way. But all I need to do is take a little bit more of the med and I'll be fine. Yeah. So it's just this whole new thing of like, we're finally like cracking the code of being in control of body weight. And it's a very fascinating kind of thing to observe as to how people are trying to utilize this medication.
Brother, I can't tell you how well articulated that how you summarize that, because I even had to stop and take a note. When you talk about food freedom, that is a value that customer has, right? When they come to us in pain, part of that pain is they feel like they are a slave to their habits. They're a slave to the emotional eating, and they feel trapped by it, and they're tired of it. They're actually tired of always answering the call to, okay, I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed. I'm going to search for dopamine through food, and they're tired of it, and they're looking to free themselves from it. So that value is what really is driving the behavioral change, and to be able to speak to it like, hey, here's what you want, here's what you really want. I don't care, man. No one wakes up and goes, I want to squat. I want to buy a squat today. I want to buy a Turkish get up. No one's buying that. People do wake up and say, I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of being a slave to my habits. They wake up that way. They wake up just sick and tired. And so that's dope. I had to stop and take some notes there. I need to.
I got some isms as it pertains to this, because before it's like, and it really helped me and Seamus in the last the last year since we got board certified, just the idea behind like the psychology of things. Because like before it was like we had this relationship with clients as a nutrition coach and being more of like a consultant. And I think my business coach is actually like really hit the nail on the head here. She said a few things that I had to write down too the other day. She said the words partnership. I'm partnering with you. But like it's no longer like just this coach journey. It's like this partnership. Like we're on the same playing field in a sense, right? Yeah. We're doing it together. Like, yes, there's certain things I might be a little more elevated in, but your body better than I know you. Mm-hmm. So like that partnership really matters. So I love that word over just like my client that I coach, right? We have a coaching partnership. She also said, no, I'm losing my train of thought. She also said something too that got me thinking, right? So we have that idea and that like these relationships that we're developing with these people, right? The mind and how it's getting shifted. And like you just said with the brain fart.
Pain points?
No.
Results?
No. Go back and, you said something. What did you write down? If you say the word again,
food freedom.
That I said.
Food freedom. And then you pose this question, how are you going to control coming off of this medication? How are you going to make sure that you have, essentially, as I paraphrase it in my mind, how are you going to make sure that you still have the freedom that you crave as this medication, you come down? And so, so obviously
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
partnering with them to keep the freedom that they want, the value. You're essentially modifying the behavior to keep the value that they want.
Yes. And all the while trying to get them to think about the decision-making process with food. And there was literally a call I had yesterday with a client that so many people always would be like, hey, what would it be like to kind of like snap a photo of this and kind of get an idea of what would go on or what to choose from a menu? So this guy took it a step further because he's in software development. So he kind of understands. He's like, so I had an idea. I wanted a better estimation. I took a photo of the menu and, decided like, hey, I'm going to try to choose one of these three things. What would you recommend? And what would the potential macros be on this plate? Right. So now AI was spitting out these potential estimates of it. He actually took a photo once the meal arrived after he chose it from there. So he's like, did I do that right? I was like, bro, you just blew my mind because like, of course I would always recommend people try to take a photo and try to make an estimate, and I can help do that. But now the AI tools are getting so good with potential estimates. I was like, okay, let me go try this. Took a photo off of Google and I was like, hey, tell me the macros of this meal. Boom. It was like, these green beans they look like they're potentially steamed. It's probably X amount of calories, right? Based on like, I use the cues of like precision nutrition methods and hand portioning based on like the photo, right? So I tried to like tie it all together to what we're doing. It's like mac and cheese, maybe a little harder to estimate here, but gave like a range of calories. So like, cool. Same thing with like he's like, it looks like a meatloaf. That one could be a little harder to detect, but again, a range. And he's like, what do you think about that? I was like, why didn't I think of that? Was the $1 million question. I know all these other calorie AI tools and stuff, but like there's a paywall. And then for me to like recommend those additional things could be difficult. But now all the free tools that are like included inside of like your, most people are probably using a G Suite or something along those lines. And Google's like, hey, by the way, $2 more per month now. F you guys. Like, but you got access to Gemini. But it is amazing how like, again, if you literally turn to your phone and the thing in your pocket, which they said, hey, you'll never have a calculator in your pocket. So back in the day.
Yeah.
Again, food decisions was the right move. I'm learning more. The hands-on learning experience and how it's getting adapted right now in coaching is wild, especially with food. I mean, this guy came to this conversation so prepared. I was like, I'm not worried about my job because the human connection is going to matter because they want to like know they're doing a good job. But it was a very real moment amidst all the other AI conversations I had yesterday too.
I see AI as increasing the value of the coach and the trainer exponentially.
Oh yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, I think we had a conversation about this because I'm a big AI. I'm a big futurist. I'm like, I want everything friction.
You're bullish. You're like Dr. Mike Isbertel, James.
I'm super like bullish. But there is knowledge, okay? There's experience, but then there's the wisdom. And I think when you have a collaborative partnership, what a coach brings is someone like you, Will, with 15 plus experience, Marcos and I having multiple years of experience. There's a wisdom there that when you're given choices by AI, I think the AI can give you choices and like, cool, I'll make the choice. But when you're collaborating, going over the nuance, letting the person know, I've had this specific situation before with somebody. Here's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Or here's a menu of things. What do you want to do? I don't know. It really feels that the connection piece, I think Marcos, you and I, like Will, all of us, like since we've been in a connection-based, community-based, person-to-person based type of profession, I think like we just double down on that. And I think we just get, people will come flock to us even more,
Not only do we double down on it, if you are truly passionate, anyone listening to this can hear the passion in all three of us. If you are truly passionate about what you do, people are going to come to you in droves because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you know. It really isn't. It's not about how much you know. It's about how much you care. The human aspect of looking at someone who is looking back at you and both of you have the same goal. You come to me and you're like, Coach, I have my high school reunion in 4 months. The guy who dumped me before the ball and married my best friend, he's going to be there and I need the best revenge body. Can you help me? Yeah. I will look at you with all honesty and tell you we're going to build the best body we can to get back at that bitch and make him know he made the wrong decision. Chat will never do that. Chat will tell you why you need to let go and, maybe recommend the 4 agreements, right? I'm a big logic guy. I love logic. I love rationalizing. All that. At the end of the day, I know that human beings make emotional decisions first, and we justify it with
We
logic.
justify it later, man. It's so true, and it's so funny. Marcos brought up Mike Gizitelli, and they're talking about this thing in their podcast. We're trying to see if we can talk about this as well with them. But the aesthetic revolution, this concept of like drugs, and like weight loss drugs and weight loss technologies. On top of the GLPs, right, Marcos? They're doing these myostatin antagonists, which is like you never have to lift again. You just always have muscle like a primate or something like that. And so like we figured out fat loss, we figure out muscle mass. Exercise is going to be non-existent. So like, then it's going to be maybe we'll.
I don't see it being as successful as
the GLPs.
There's something about the euphoria, unless it creates the same euphoria as after like a gym session.
Yeah, I don't
whether
think
it's just being with the buddies and then also just knowing you did something hard, or maybe also feeling some regret that you push yourself too hard in one thing so you miss some other movements. Like there's all these little internal struggles and battles.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it can ever replicate that.
And I don't think too, and I also think like chasing, like the reason a lot of people are into the fit stuff is that probably they were like in a sport. Like I don't think you could chase that high, like that quarterback throw, that finishing 3-point throw, that like no one can. It's impossible to chase that high. You can't get that. I mean, you can't get that with drugs, but in a safe and healthy way. It's hard to chase that other than like chasing it through greatness, through hard things.
Well, everything at the end of the day is kind of like this idea of a gamble, right? And then like the reward of that thing having such a low likelihood of it actually occurring, right? Bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, full count, bases loaded, down by 3 runs. What are you going to do, right? Like everybody envisions that moment of hitting the grand slam, walk off, win, right? Or you're at the free throw line. You got to sink these last 2 free throws to take the team into the championship, right? NBA finals. Speaking of, it's happening tonight, game 3, right? You know what I mean? Like, so all these like moments and like again, there's an emotional connection to the game and the win, but it's funny because I mean, this is where actually I really appreciate like Giannis so much and like his mindset to basketball. He's like, look, you guys are thinking this is an unsuccessful, year because we didn't win. He's like, I'm going to come work harder and try to be better next year. Like the fact that I haven't won every single time I'm there is what makes me want to keep going back. Right.
Yeah.
If I would have won my first competition ever, I'd have been like, would I have would I have cared as much?
No, that's so true. That's so true. I think like having that chip on your shoulder, dude, having that chip on your shoulder is like the thing that goes like, I got to prove them. I got to prove it,
Hey, that's what the enhanced games is going to be successful, right?
and the story, right? Like the context is what really gives it meaning. As you were painting the picture of being, bottom of the ninth or, 1 second left on the clock and you have to hit this shot. At the end of the day, and this is something that I tell my son, I have a 20-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old, but I remind him that the last shot to win the game and the first shot that you take are still the same shot. It's a basketball shot. The form is the same. Everything is still the same. The only thing that changes is the context, and the context changes the meaning. And at the end of the day, it's the story that you tell yourself. It's the story that you tell yourself as the shooter, whether or not you're going to hit that shot. And it's the story you tell yourself as a critic and a fan. Oh, that's Kobe Bryant. He's going to hit that. He always hits that. This is MJ reincarnated. Or, you're a Halliburton hater. You're a Sacramento Kings fan like me. You're like, nah, we made the right trade. Halliburton's not going to be the guy. We should have kept Fox. It's the story you tell yourself. And between all these stories, this is what makes it great. That's the human part of it that never goes away. I don't care what you have.
You can't write that even as like an AI person and logic treeing it all out. Like, again, even if you're looking at statistical probabilities of Halliburton having arguably the most clutch playoff performance of all time, right? Like the fact that it happened is like, this doesn't seem real. Like who would even conjure that up? It's insane. And that's why people love sports, is like the unpredictability of it. Like
the drama.
That's why I'm dying as a Kings fan. I'm dying. I'm literally dying as a Sacramento Kings fan.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
Well, yeah, but man, emotion, connection, people, like you're right. I think you're right. Doubling down on how And I love that you kind of said that. It's like this tool allows us to be even more like lethal with our jobs if we can use it in the right way. Like I'm over here conjuring up all the logical trees of like, how can I help better facilitate touch points on my behalf using my AI agent that is like yet to come out yet, so that these people know that like, I don't want it to be like, oh yeah, I'm only messaging you through like trainer eyes. I want it to be like from my personal phone, because there's like an additional meaning there. I want that agent to be like from me. I want to train it to like get that thing out there and remind me, hey, do you want me to send this? Like, yes, absolutely. I need to talk to that person today. I want them to know that I'm thinking about them. I can't tell you how many times I'm thinking about the person and I just don't send the message at like the action. Like I freeze up, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to be a bother as the coach. Like, I mean, how much is too much touch? You know, I don't even, I shouldn't.
Never too much, right? Never. And here's something that grounds me when it comes to people. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and be all kumbaya. The best thing about my job is people, and the worst thing about my job is people, right? It's the
True.
and sword. But something that grounds me is that I know that there are trillions and trillions of stars in the galaxy, right? This is known for a fact. Trillions and trillions and trillions. There are enough stars in the galaxy so that every person on the planet that's alive, we could all have 5 or 6 of our own stars. And I also know that value is attributed to scarcity. When something is scarce, there is the higher value. There are more stars than people by a significant number. There aren't a lot of people when you compare that to how many stars are available. So when I deal with a person, one individual, and their goal, I know I'm dealing with something very, very rare. And I believe that, right? And it comes across in my training. And I think at the end of the day, if you are a person and you have a goal, you have a question, and you're moving in a certain direction, who would you rather partner with? Someone who is essentially telling their bots to come talk to you, or someone who looks at you as something as rare as freaking Pluto, right? Like, damn, I'm on a distant planet here. I need to respect the space that I'm in, and I need to really help this person get to where they need to be. And if I can't do it, I need to point them in the right direction.
Yeah. Dang. That's a
What we
mic
do,
drop.
fellas.
That's a
What
mic
we
drop
do.
right there, Will. That's a mic drop. I think that's perfect. I mean, we're over an hour. I want to keep it there.
It's been an hour. Damn.
Yeah, that went
It
by
goes by
quick.
fast.
It goes by fast. Talked about everything, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please give Will a follow. You can find him in Psyko Fit Club. Also, too, if you're in the Sacramento area and you're looking to train, Will's got you. And if you're, going into your first Hyrox, Marcos and I are doing the Anaheim one. If you're doing that, make sure you're 20 weeks out and sign up with Will in that area. He'd help you out. Will, where can they find you? Anything else you'd like to leave off?
You can find me on the IG at Psyko Fit Club. You can find us on Facebook. Go Psycho, GOPSYKO.club. Go Psycho, GOPSYKO.club. Find us online. Find me anywhere. Google me. You'll just hit me up. Get at me.
That's Coach with a K.
Coach
Solomon.
with the K, man.
Coach
Because I'm
Solomon.
killing the game.
So, well, yeah, thank you again, man. This was truly fun. I mean, your passion is exuded, and that's why we love doing this damn thing. Like, we get so many cool people, all walks of life, different people in different industries. Even if it's in the same industry, it feels like a different industry about how people can approach that problem so differently. So all those links to find Will, Coach Solomon, is going to be in the show notes. Thank you, Rachel, ahead of time for getting that all done for us. We really appreciate you doing that back end work for us the last couple of years now, and being able to make this Macro Perspective podcast a reality. And if you could show us some love and give us a follow on the platform that you choose to stream us on, we would greatly appreciate it. If you've made it this far, we can only continue to get bigger and better guests as we continue to grow, but also to find time for people that we meet on planes. I mean, that's literally how this podcast has continued to grow. It will continue to grow. So share it with a friend, share it with a loved one. If you found value in this, if you're in the Sacramento area, hit them up. Until next time.